President Trump fires U.S. Attorney General, Oklahoma voters select a new governor, and one typically red district flips in the metro. This is OU Nightly. Thanks for joining us for OU Nightly. I'm Shereen Hashem.
And I'm Kyle Payne. We begin tonight with breaking news, an announcement that caught many off guard one day after the midterm elections.
President Donald Trump has fired Attorney General Jeff Sessions. It's a big shakeup with his cabinet. Ashley Eddy joins us with the very latest. From the News Center, Ashley?
News broke early this afternoon of Jeff Sessions' forced resignation. In a letter to White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, Sessions wrote, "At your request, I am submitting my resignation." After criticism from the president, Sessions lasted not quite 2 years in the job. Much of the criticism came after Sessions' decision last year to rescue himself from the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. And according to President Donald Trump, Matthew Whitaker will take over as acting Attorney General. Whitaker is expected to take charge of the Russia investigation. Trump tweeted the announcement and said a permanent replacement would be nominated at a later date. No direct questions about Sessions were answered by Trump during his news conference today. United States Senator Chuck Schumer had a statement to make once he heard the news concerning Sessions.
Oh. Well, I'd say this. I've just heard the news, but I'd say this. Protecting Mueller and his investigation is paramount. It would create a constitutional crisis.
Other Democratic senators are also calling for protection for Robert Mueller. And we will be sure to keep you updated with any other possible breaking news.
Thanks, Ashley. Republicans maintained their hold on Oklahoma's government from the state to the federal levels in yesterday's midterms. That includes the state's newest governor, Kevin Stitt. OU Nightly's Sammi Steele was at the Republican Watch Party last night and caught up with the future governor to see what his plans are for the Sooner State.
What is the first thing you're going to do tomorrow?
Well, it's going to be reaching out to the House, the Senate, and start bringing those guys in and putting the plan together and selling the vision that we have, making sure they're all on board. Because at the end of the day, I can't do it by myself. I've got to reach out to all 101 House members and 48 senators and start driving that vision. But they need a leader. They need somebody from the governor's office casting the vision on where we want to go as a state.
And we're going to celebrate this tonight, guys. Can't wait to hang out with you. And then we're going to get back to work tomorrow and start turning our state around. So thank y'all so much. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Stitt, a political newcomer, will replace term limited Governor Mary Fallin, who was also in attendance at the GOP's watch party. And Kyle, I know you were at Drew Edmondson's watch party last night. How did that go?
I was there as the results rolled in. Hundreds of his supporters were in attendance, and the mood at the start of the night reflected how close many believed this race would be. One thing that really stuck out was the amount of teachers there in support of his campaign. While the results didn't end the way they had hoped and the race was called around 8:50, people stuck around to hear his final speech as a candidate for governor.
Linda and I decided to enter this race. We did so because we feared the direction that our state had taken. And there was the absolute heart and soul of this campaign, and that is the teachers of the state of Oklahoma. There is nothing short of the outcome that we would change about any minute that we spent on this campaign trail.
Edmondson talked about his next chapter now that the race is over. His main goal is still to improve upon the state he has called home for so many years.
Defying all the polls, experts, and even historical record, the race for Oklahoma's U.S. House District 5 flipped from red to blue last night. This is the first time in 44 years that a Democrat had won the congressional seat that represents the metro area.
Kendra Horn, an Oklahoma City native and now the third woman ever to represent the Sooner State in Congress, jumped into the race last July, challenging U.S. Representative Steve Russell. Horn gathered just over 120,000 votes, winning narrowly over Russell's 117,000.
On the campaign trail, Horn focused on two main issues, healthcare and education. She credited young voters for her victory.
we really got a lot of young people involved, and I think that is one of the things that made a huge difference. We had a great group of fellows, and getting those voices of young voters and engaging new people in this district really made a difference.
With Kevin Stitt's victory in the governor's race, Taitum Wilson joins us now to break down how each county in the state voted. Taitum?
Kevin Stitt won the race for governor by a fairly wide margin, especially given how close polls predicted the race to be. But there were a few counties that went completely blue, supporting Drew Edmondson, although it was only 4. Here are the 4 counties: Cleveland, Oklahoma, Muskogee, and Cherokee. So that would be the areas of Norman, Oklahoma City, Edmond, and areas nearest Edmondson's hometown. And in Muskogee County, where Edmondson grew up, he won only by 1 vote. Stitt won in every other county in the state for a final tally of 54% to Edmondson's 42%. And the Oklahoma Republican Party won big last night overall, winning every single statewide elected seat. This includes lieutenant governor, superintendent of public instruction, treasurer, and auditor. Every district attorney and the newly elected corporation, labor, and insurance commissioners also Republican. The GOP still controls both chambers of the state legislature as well. They picked up 1 seat in the House, while Democrats picked up 1 seat in the Senate. Oklahoma was part of a national surge in voter turnout. Early voting numbers were more than double that of the last midterm election in 2014. I spoke to an OU associate professor of political science about voter engagement last night at an election watch party on campus.
One of the cool things about this election is the degree to which young people have been interested and engaged, and I've heard lots of stories about folks registering to vote for the first time this year, and people are just tuned in. It's a really exciting election. It's going to be down to the wire, I think.
It certainly was a big year for voter turnout this year. In 2014, a little over 800,000 Oklahomans voted for governor in Oklahoma. This year, it was over 1.1 million.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we could see it right from the beginning with early voting, too. It clearly was going to be a lot more people turning out to the polls this year.
Yep, followed the nationwide trend.
Thanks, Taitum. And a big change on the way for our weather.
Marisa Nuzzo has a first look at the forecast. Marisa, it's going to get cold.
Yeah, right now we're sitting at some pretty nice fall temperatures with 59 here in Norman, 58 and more, and in the upper 50s for most of the metro right now, but that is not going to last very long. We have some rain on the way for tomorrow, and our first hard freeze is coming up this weekend, and we possibly even have some snow in the forecast, but don't worry, none of it will be putting a damper on your Bedlam weekend, and I'll have all the details coming up.
Thanks, Marisa. Up next, Storme Jones joins us live from Washington, D.C. He'll break down the results from a wild midterm election.
Plus, one building on campus is finally prepared for the changing season. Stay with us.
Welcome back to OU Nightly. There won't be optometrists practicing in Oklahoma Walmarts, and the next election won't see a joint ticket for governor and lieutenant governor.
Of the five state questions on yesterday's ballot, voters struck down all but one. State question 793, that would loosen restrictions on optometric practices in big box retailers, was narrowly rejected. Only about 6,000 votes kept the proposal from passing.
State question 794, or Marcy's Law, was approved by a wide margin, with 78% voters in favor of the proposal. The question will amend the state constitution to expand the rights of crime victims to be more equal to the rights of those accused of crimes. 6 other states have passed similar Marcy's Law measures.
Also defeated yesterday, question 798, calling for the governor and lieutenant governor to appear on the same ticket. Question 800, setting up the Oklahoma Vision Fund, and 801, changing the way school districts could use property tax dollars.
And one day after the midterm elections, some races across the country are still too close to call. OU Nightly's Storme Jones is in the nation's capital with what to make of the races that have been decided. Storme?
And it was a mixed bag last night, with Democrats taking control of the House of Representatives and Republicans picking up at least 2 seats in the Senate, which they will control for at least the next 2 years. Also mixed results in Oklahoma. Democrat Kendra Horn, the attorney from Oklahoma City, beating out Congressman Steve Russell. In Oklahoma's 1st congressional district, Republican Kevin Hern will fill the seat vacated by NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine. In eastern Oklahoma, Republican Markwayne Mullin wins a 4th term, despite his pledge to only seek 3 terms when he first got into office. Frank Lucas will be returning to represent the state's 3rd congressional district. However, he won't be chairing any committees he had been eyeing, with Democrats taking control of the House. And Tom Cole keeps his seat representing the Norman area. Today, President Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi, the woman who could once again become Speaker of the House if selected by Democrats, they held dueling press conferences, both claiming victory.
I think the results that I've learned and maybe confirmed, I think people like me. I think people like the job I'm doing, frankly.
Biggest winner yesterday was the health care for American people, for our seniors and hardworking American families. Health care was on the ballot, and health care won.
And despite Democrats picking up the House of Representatives, pundits agree this was not the blue wave that they had hoped for. And guys, tonight, 19 House races and 2 Senate races are still too close to call. In Washington, D.C., Storme Jones, OU Nightly.
Thanks, Storme.
It's no surprise that it's going to be cold at the end of October, yet year after year, we don't have heat.
Again, we were told Kaufman Hall now has working heat. We let you know 2 weeks ago about the difficulties students and faculty in Kaufman Hall experience every winter due to no heat in their building. The day after our story ran, a staff member informed us that the heating and air maintenance team came into the building to work on the problem. Now students and faculty in that building should be a bit more comfortable this winter.
With Bedlam this weekend, people are wondering how the weather for the rest of the week is looking. Marisa Nuzzo joins us again with some precipitation chances. Marisa?
That's right, guys. We do have some rain on the way, and I have your detailed Bedlam weekend forecast all coming up right after this break. Welcome back to OU Nightly. It's been a beautiful day today, but that is not going to continue for the rest of the week. And we've got a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. It was a very dry day today, but tomorrow around 7, the showers are going to start creeping into Oklahoma, and they're going to reach Norman about 5 p.m. And if you didn't notice, the giant blue, that is all snow out in Kansas. In the very northernmost part of the state is going to see a few flurries, and then as that moves out, a little bit more of the state is going to see some snow out near Tulsa. But here in Norman, just some drizzle and a little bit of rain for your day on Thursday, and that's going to move out, and all of the rain will be gone for Friday and for Saturday as well. So if we're having snow, it must mean that our temperatures are getting cold. So let's take a look at our temperature forecast. Tonight we're going to get down into the 30s, and tomorrow that cold air is going to linger and we're not going to get much warmer, and then we're just going to get even colder again Thursday night into Friday morning. So Friday morning when you're leaving 7 a.m. it's going to be 33 degrees. So not quite reaching freezing, but an uncomfortable 33 degrees walking out the door on Friday. So do be aware of that, and only heating up to around 46 degrees for Friday as well. And then overnight into Saturday, that is when we are going to see our first freeze. 26 degrees here in Norman. That cold air is all going to push down up in Kansas, seeing temperatures in the single digits. So let's take a look at exactly what the temperatures are going to be across the state. 28 in McAllister, 26 overnight in Norman, 26 in Oklahoma City. We have our little dancing snowman because this is our first freeze of the year. So if you're ready for winter, it is here, and the National Weather Service has issued a freeze watch for most of the state except for the most southeasternly portion of the state, and the Panhandle has seen some freezing temperatures a few times already this year, so they don't have a watch yet, even though they could in the next coming days. So now what everybody wants to talk about, Bedlam. Let's see, Friday we have our high of 46 degrees with those winds shifting, and that's going to continue into Saturday, but sunny skies in for this weekend for Bedlam, and the rain is going to be here for us tomorrow, but it'll be moved out for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So it's going to be a beautiful weekend for Bedlam, although a little bit colder than people probably want.
Yeah, 48 and sunny still feels like 48, so it should
still
be a cold
feels like 48.
Yeah.
Thanks, Marissa. It's Bedlam week here in Norman.
Abigail Lee breaks down some Sooner reactions for the upcoming rivalry game.
Sooners will tell us all about last year's impressions in Stillwater, and we'll tell you Russell Westbrook's status for tonight's game. Stick around, sports is straight ahead. The Sooners are looking for a victory against Oklahoma State after a close game against Texas Tech last week. OU will have to win this weekend if they hope to keep their playoff dreams alive. Meridith Mulkey lets us in on what the players are thinking about OSU.
Yeah, it's that time again. The biggest rivalry in the state of Oklahoma is here. Bedlam. The Sooners and Pokes will meet in Norman this year after a 114-point explosion last year, with OU coming out on top of a 62-52 win. Players are prepared for that type of game again this year.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy game. Obviously an air-rated game. A lot of passes, some explosive runs and stuff like that. So, I definitely remember all of those, and, definitely great offense. Mason Rudolph, obviously their quarterback last year, and, obviously going up against Justice last year. So, definitely last year was a challenge, and, this year, watching them on tape, they have a great offense. So I'm looking forward to the challenge this year, defending them.
It was a shootout, so, hopefully we don't have to do that this Saturday, but, if it comes down to it, we'll be ready.
OU is ready to take down OSU for the 88th time in the historic matchup. This would be the Sooners' 4th Bedlam win in a row, and in Championship November, this game is a must-win for OU. Abigail?
Thanks, Meredith. College basketball officially tipped off last night at Champions Classic. Number 2 Kentucky fell victim to an unstoppable performance by the 4th-ranked Duke Blue Devils and possibly the best freshman class ever. R.J. Barrett, Zion Williamson, and Cameron Reddish combined for 83 points, powering Duke to a 118-84 win. Number 1 Kansas took on number 10 Michigan State and put on an impressive show going into the half with a 14-point lead. Michigan State was able to rally late in the game, but it wasn't enough. With Jayhawks freshman guards Quentin Grimes and Devon Dotson combining for 37 points, Kansas took the win 92-87. Russell Westbrook will miss tonight's game against the Cavaliers due to a minor ankle sprain he suffered against the Pelicans Monday night. The Thunder were able to beat New Orleans without him, and they hope to extend their win streak to 6 tonight, while the Cavs look to break a 3-game losing streak. Cleveland comes into the game with a 1-9 record. And it's Wine Wednesday, which around here means it's time for our Whiner of the Week. For this week's Whiner, we go back to Monday night's Celtics loss in Denver. Nuggets Jamal Murray threw up a 3-pointer as the time expired in the hopes of hitting 50 points for the first time in his career. Kyrie Irving took exception and threw the game ball into the stands. Irving went on to blast Murray afterwards with language we can't use. He's been fined $25,000 by the league. At least he can afford a good bottle of wine.
And a big fine. He must have thrown that ball halfway across the court for $25,000.
Definitely farther than I can throw.
Thanks, Abigail.
Thanks.
For the supporters at Kevin Stitt's watch party, victory was literally sweet.
We take a look at one baker who cooked up something special for Stitt.
I'm Abby Foster at the OU Nightly Update Desk. Michigan is now the 10th state to legalize recreational marijuana. Those 21 or older may now have, use, or grow the drug. While the law will take effect in about a month, the process of establishing regulations on retail and sale will go into 2020. Supporters say it will raise roughly $130 million in additional tax revenue each year that will go towards road repairs, schools, and local governments, while opposers saying legalizing marijuana would lead to increased use by children, drug abuse, and car crashes. Back to you in the studio.
Thanks, Abby. At the Republicans' watch party last night, Governor-elect Kevin Stitt and GOP supporters enjoyed cake made by entrepreneurial baker 16-year-old Brianna Hill. Hill donated the dessert and says she's made the cake layers transparent, hoping it's a metaphor for how Stitt runs a state. Stitt says he was honored that Hill and her family helped make the treat for the event, and while being governor may not be a piece of cake, he was inspired to see a young entrepreneur passionate about getting involved in her government.
That looks like some pretty good cake to me.
And you know what? I hope the Sooners take the cake this weekend at our Bedlam game, even though it is going to be pretty chilly. We're expecting temperatures during the game to be in the 40s with some winds. The winds will be out of the south, though, so that might give a little bit of a warm breeze. But other than that, it is going to be pretty chilly, so It's going to be our first cold game of the year. Everyone's going to bundle up.
Those games are always fun.
Yeah, I think everyone enjoys.
Thanks for watching OU Nightly, brought to you by Gaylord College at the University of Oklahoma.
We'll see you back here tomorrow night live at 4:30.
Have a great evening.
Good night.